Okay.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for everybody joining us. Welcome to the Brain Injury Association of Missouri Survivor and Family Education 2021. My name is Maureen Cunningham. I'm Executive Director with the Brain Injury Association of Missouri. This program is free today through the support of sponsors. Our program partners for today are Missouri Department of Health and Senior Services, Missouri Agribility, and the Beginning Farmer Rancher Development Project. Our keynote sponsor is The Whole Person. Our break sponsor is Ability KC, and our education sponsors are Preferred Family Healthcare and Ozark Neuro Rehab Center. Please give our sponsors a round of applause. If this is your first time joining an online webinar, you are in mute mode. So if you have a question for a presenter during a session, use the Q&A option at the bottom of your screen. Click on where it says Q&A and type in your question. If time allows at the end of the session, I will pose those questions to the presenter. Also, handouts are available for the sessions today. The web page that you use to access the webinar also has a section that says download handouts. Click that button and the handout will come up on your screen for you to reference throughout the session or later. We have two sessions today for the survivor and family education. Our first session is navigating the workforce, and our presenter is Vicky Gunn. Our second session is assistive technology for learning and living, and our presenter is David Baker. Let's go ahead and get started with our first session. This session of the Brain Injury Association of Missouri Survivor and Family Education is navigating the workforce. Our presenter is Vicky Gunn. Vicky is a vocational rehabilitation counselor with Missouri Vocational Rehabilitation from the Kansas City area. Please welcome Vicky Gunn.
Hello, everybody. Pardon me. Can you hear me, Maureen, okay?
We can hear you perfect, so yep.
Okay, and I'm going to share my slides now. Can you see it okay?
Perfect.
Okay, great. Hello, everybody. Like Maureen said, I'm Vicky Gunn. I am a voc rehab counselor out of the Kansas City East office located in Raytown, Missouri. I've been working with voc rehab for going into my 5th year. So I am just going to talk about navigating the workforce. Let me go now to the next slide here. All right. I just wanted to cover a little bit of what vocational rehabilitation is. We are under a division under Department of Education, or elementary and secondary education. And we are designed to help those who have a documented disability that would like to go to work and they're capable of working. We are there to assist in that process. And please, if you have questions during this, I'd like it to be interactive. Feel free to ask anything at any time. Maureen, I don't know where I would see, like, if somebody had a question, would I be able to see somewhere? Do you know? Here's a chat box.
Vicky, and everybody will post their questions using the Q&A section.
Okay.
And I will pose them to you at the end of the session, unless you prefer that I do it during the session.
No, that's fine. If you'd rather, whatever you want to do, Maureen, that's fine. I
We'll
just
just do
want,
it after the session.
that's fine. I just want to make sure I can, answer everybody's questions.
Yeah.
So, who is eligible for VR services? Um, Anybody who has a documented disability. You do not have to be receiving Social Security disability, SSI or SSDI. I know that many people, in particular that I work with, many do, but that's not the case for everybody. As long as you have a documented disability, and we can order medical records, and I read through those and capture the disability, then you're eligible for VR services. The other part of that is, can you benefit from them? So there's many that don't need VR services, and then sometimes people do. Coming to us and needing assistance with either obtaining a job, or say you're at a job and you're needing some help maintaining it. That's what we are able to do either. Let's see. Wrong slide, wrong way here. Sorry about that. Let me. The eligibility, or how you get with Voc Rehab and get started. You call into one of our offices. At the end of the slide is the office for Raytown, which I work out of. You just simply ask for an intake. They will ask you some questions, and then they send out forms that you complete for the intake, and those are ready for us to go over on the day and time that's been set up. Those forms are also located on the website, State of Missouri. I went in and under Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, there's a drop down across about an inch. I have a laptop, but about 1.5 inches down, there is a row of tabs to choose from. And there's adult, one that says adult service, I believe. I believe is adult service. And you drop down, and then over to the left, you'll see vocational rehabilitation. Click on that, and that leads you to many of the stuff that we're going to go over here. Not all of it and not in detail, but you can obtain your forms there if you'd like. Otherwise, when you call to make an appointment, they will mail them out to you. And since this pandemic has hit, we are doing things electronically, which probably many other places were already doing, but now we're catching up, which has been, out of all of the things that everybody has gone through the pandemic, this is kind of a silver lining. We're able to help people who it was difficult to get into the office. We can, right now we're doing it virtually as well, over Zoom or one of the apps. And when we go over the information, and if you do get Social Security, disability, SSDI or SSI, what's real helpful and important is if you have a copy of your award letter for the current year, having that ready and having it, bringing that to that first meeting, because during the process of the intake and then opening a case and getting eligibility determined, then that SSI or SSDI letter is very important, because if Social Security finds you disabled, then we also, vocational rehabilitation will as well. No medical records need to be ordered. We just take whatever the information from the client directly. And it speeds things up quite a bit. If you don't have that, that's not a big deal. We order medical records. And sometimes clients will have a document from their doctor stating their, this is their treating physician, and this is their disability, and that's acceptable as well. Let's see. Getting back to the slide here. So when we meet, part of determining the eligibility is, do you need assistance with either obtaining or maintaining gainful employment? Gainful employment as is competitive wages. Excuse me, my mouth gets so dry when I talk. We don't work with volunteer jobs, and the jobs that we assist clients with they have to be at least minimum wage. So that's what we consider competitive. That is competitive employment. Let's see here. Navigating the workforce, exploring ways to find and keep a job you enjoy. That was for the question that Maureen had sent to me, and we'll talk about. So how do we do that? How do we figure out what job that you would like to find and do, that you might not have any idea what jobs are out there, what's possible. So that it's where we do vocational planning, and we go over things like, what's been your previous job history, if there's been one. What are your interests? Do you have any hobbies? Things that you enjoy doing, because we aren't about just helping somebody get a job to have a job, any job. That isn't what we do. We want you to be able to find a job that you want to go into work. When your it's your time for you to go in, that you don't, certainly dread going in. And another thing is we don't want you in pain while you're doing your job. So that, in Voc Rehab's eyes, is not a successful outcome. We want you to be able to come home after you've worked, and yeah, everybody may be a little tired, but you shouldn't be, having to recover pain-wise for the whole evening or following day. That's not what we want for you, and that's not what we consider, again, anything a successful outcome. So there is lots of different tools we use to figure out, okay, many times people will say, I'm not really sure what kind of job I would be interested in. I don't know. I don't necessarily have hobbies, or, some people post traumatic brain injury, their interests have changed. Their hobbies, what they did before and able to do before, sometimes they can do it post traumatic brain injury, sometimes they can't. So we have Career Scope. It's a test that we can set you up with a gentleman in our office who is over that, and it measures interests and abilities and kind of merges the two. Like any, they do these at college a lot of times. They're not perfect. Sometimes they're helpful, even though you may get the results back and say, I don't like any of this. This isn't anything I'm interested in doing. I don't want to do that. And that's fine. But there's so much information that you cover, you might get some ideas along the way. There's the website ONET that just lists any job you could imagine, anything you could possibly think of. You could put in a word, anything from, if you like working with animals, put animal in that and see what comes up. You never know. So that's another tool we use. And we just explore until we figure out what the goal is, job goal is that you or the client would like to do. Let's see. My computer is not as fast as it should be. Also, a big thing is, what don't you like doing? That way, as we're working with you, we're not going to be looking at things or hear about a job lead and go, oh, wow, I think that might be something, my client might like doing or is able to do and might be a good fit with days, hours, times, location. But I go to speak with you and my client says, no, I don't like that. That doesn't sound good to me at all. That's nothing I want to do. And so by all means, that's as important, knowing what you like and your interests, but also what you don't like, so we can steer away from that. And what are your strengths, what abilities, what do you find in yourself that you feel like is something that you do well? It could be anything. I did an intake day before yesterday, and I was talking to the person and they said, all I can think of is I'm pretty good at organizing. I like to organize. So they said, I don't know if there's a job for that, but yeah, there's a lot of jobs that require organization. And so that's what we're gearing towards, looking for this particular client, something where organization is going to be a huge part of the job. Limitations and barriers that your disability presents in obtaining goals. We have to talk about what are the limitations that the disability has caused. It's part of the disability. So sometimes when you go in for a job, people can see there's a physical disability. Sometimes they can't. So we just have to deal with, okay, is it structural things? No steps, let's say you are, cannot walk or stand for extended periods of time. And so we want something where an accommodation could be requested and you could still do the job with it, a stool, a chair, something to be able to take a break. And we're going to get to talking about how that as well next, how on accommodations, how does that work? But those are the kind of things that we look at and help us to determine, okay, what job would be appropriate. Another thing is, when you have become eligible for services and we're doing vocational planning, you are given a list of providers that they contract with the state of Missouri Vocational Rehabilitation to offer employment services. And you're able to choose anybody off the list that you like. It's client choice. And it also gives them an idea when we go, the voc rehab counselor sets up the appointment and coordinates with everybody's schedule. And then we meet, and ultimately, before that appointment is through, we want to write a individualized plan for employment. We call it IPE or plan. And that primary job goal we need to list, what is that going to be? So having myself and my client already have done some vocational planning, certainly going to the CRP, which stands for Community Rehabilitation Program, that is their area of expertise. So when we sit down with them, they may come up, and many times, most of the time, they'll come up with all kinds of different job ideas. And you can say yes or no. And we can have to have a primary job goal, but then we can list as many alternate job goals as we want, as you want. So that just gives guidance on, you're looking for a job and they're looking on your behalf. So it helps them to have direction. Many of the CRPs have, network, they're always networking, and they may have relationships with businesses or places, people in the community. So you never know what, somebody, just by mentioning something, hey, I like this, or I enjoy that, they might know somebody who could, have access to a job that would incorporate that. Like, let's see here, moving on. Services, I've kind of talked about, let's see, assess to determine the extent of the disability and limitations. That's something that we, like I said, we have to figure out. Certainly if you aren't able to do stairs, and this job is going to require some amount of stairs for whatever, however it's set up. There should always be an elevator, but there are times when different jobs require somebody to use stairs a little bit. So again, that's not going to be a good fit. Voc Rehab, the counselor, guidance and counseling, I'm there through the whole case, lifetime of the case. So as we meet in the beginning, you'll talk with me more, and we're getting everything set up and eligibility, all the paperwork. And then once the CRP, the Community Rehabilitation Program, is chosen and we make that contact and appointment, I've had clients say it feels like I've handed you over to them, and then I'm not so much a part of, which I'm always there. I mean, I'm the umbrella, and also I'm the one that makes sure things keep flowing. I'm the one that makes sure authorizations get there. I'm the one that makes sure the bills get paid. If there's any problems, I always tell my clients, call me immediately. I need to know if there's anything going on that isn't going, it's not right, it's not going the way you want it to. And we will figure a way to work that out. I need to know, the client is supposed to call in to their Voc Rehab counselor once a month, every 30 days. Now with, of course, technology, it can be email, it can be text, and also a phone call. And so every month, but let's say it happens a week into, we just spoke for our monthly update, and a week later, things have completely changed. And call your Voc Rehab counselor immediately, let them know what's going on. We talked about career exploration, this using the scope, looking at different interests and abilities as far as on paper. And then, there is, depending on the type of employment program that is appropriate, we have 3 which are coming up. There's employment services, where there's just a tiny bit of job coaching there, where the client is able to go to job interviews and be able to do the job without any assistance or ongoing assistance. That employment specialist is going to help you with onboarding and interviews, if you need them to go with you to an interview, all of that's, totally possible. As we go into, there's employment services, then we have ESP, and we have a brain injury program, and that is working specifically. The employment specialist has had training, education, working with persons who have had a brain injury. And there is, accommodation. There are, I don't know, they understand working with somebody that short-term memory might be an issue, memorization regarding a job that, there needs to be an accommodation there to be able to remember the steps. And, I know every single person is different. Every single brain injury is different. But that's something that the employment specialist is, that's just an example of something they've had education and training in. And it's called ESP, brain injury. And then there is supported employment. And that is, you use a job coach for as long as you need them. And I say that, usually 9 months to a year is probably getting towards the max, where a job coach could then start slowly backing off from helping and assisting with the client and the job. But that is a much more hands-on. It is truly an individualized program. When you come to vocational rehabilitation, every client is different. Whatever your need is may be totally different than obviously the next person. And that's what we specialize in. And I like to think that we do a very good job of it. Every plan is different. Accommodations are different. We're all an individual. So we kind of pride ourselves on making sure it's an individualized experience. Sometimes with employment, a job goal, somebody might come in and they want to do something that is going to require training or some education. We don't put people through college. Sometimes people will call and say, I just want to go to college. I'm not sure what I want to do. And that's not exactly how it works with VR. So if a client comes in and the job goal requires some kind of education or training, then that's when Voc Rehab can look at helping the client, obtain that education or training. I've certainly had I've got a client that's getting ready to go to cosmetology school. They have been getting ready for this for a few years. The case hasn't been open that entire time, but that person has kept in touch with me, and we are finally to the point where they are ready. And so they want to be a hairdresser. So part of that is cosmetology training, barber school, that's depending on the job goal. That's where education fits. Voc Rehab can help with equipment and tools sometimes. When you get into employment services, is free to the individual. Documented disability, SSI, SSDI, that's all we need. When you have financially based services, then we'd start looking at meeting VR income guidelines. And there's a sheet. It's very simple to go through. And if you get SSI or SSDI, you're automatically eligible. So it's only when you don't that we get taxes from the previous year and see if you meet your income guidelines. Let's see. Next is driver assessment, where we can absolutely send people if they have a driver's license or at least a permit, and they have a plan for transportation. If they don't have a car, that they have a plan of getting one, or they have access to a car that they would drive to and from work, then we can send someone for driver assessment. And that is, anyone is eligible for that as well. Voc Rehab will pay for that. When that assessment's done and there are recommendations on training and practicing, that's where financial eligibility, you have to be able to meet that financial eligibility. But the assessment part, Voc Rehab can assist with that, with anybody who is a client. Some clients, driver or vehicle modification. I had a client who purchased a truck that could be, not every car can be converted or you can do in a conversion with. This person bought a truck and it could be done. And so all the guidelines they fell under and met, that is a financially based service. That is when, if you get SSI or SSDI, you're automatically going to qualify. If you don't, it doesn't mean you won't qualify. We just look at that at taxes and make sure you meet VR income guidelines. Adaptive technology, maybe you need something to do a job. Let's say you need a special left-handed keyboard that you're able to use one hand. We can send for an assessment on that and see about getting something like that. Whatever that you're needing that would help to be able to do the job. With accommodations, which we're going to go into a little bit. We always ask the employer to provide it and pay for it. Sometimes they say yes, sometimes they don't get back to us, they just do it. And then sometimes they'll tell the client no. Then all I have to have is on the employer's letterhead, they have to write a statement stating they won't provide it and then get that back to me. And then that's when Voc Rehab can step in and assist with different items. It just depends. It's so individualized. Again, it's depending on what it is that a person needs and what the cost is. And but certainly always, discuss with me or your Voc Rehab counselor. I think I could do this job if I had this, that. And if you don't know what it is that could help you to do it, then, hey, could I be assessed? So those are just services we have there, we offer at Voc Rehab. We've got self-employment. That's starting to, when I first started, I was like the only one in my office of 10 counselors that the prior Voc Rehab counselor had some people two of them doing self-employment. And one of them was successful. They have their own cosmetology in their home. So Voc Rehab helped get a sink and chair in their home. And it was okay with the city ordinances, they have to work through, the client has to figure all that out and get that information to the voc rehab counselor. But that's just an example. And I know that they recently in meetings, they've said, we're really starting to look at, step by step, what we'd like to see with clients who would like to do self-employment, what they need to do, what the requirements are. There is, you have to have a business plan, for example. There is a lady who is over at UMKC that has worked with lots of our clients. So that's a possibility. Really, the cool thing about my job is we get to really think outside the box. It's not mundane, it's not routine. It's, again, going back to earlier, it's individualized. What is that individual? What does that client want to do? What do they need, to be able to do whatever it is they're wanting to do? Is it feasible? Is it possible? Is it realistic? And then we just explore from there. So depending on what it is, the client will be told, okay, I need you to gather this, and this, and we go from there. Let's see, information and referral services. If you're working with somebody, with your voc rehab counselor, and something comes up, it may not have anything to do, or at least initially people don't think it has anything to do with employment, but if they are unable, if a client is unable to pay their light bill, that inadvertently it affects employment. So always ask your voc rehab counselor, do you have any resource information? Obviously, voc rehab doesn't pay for those kind of services. We're employment. That's all we do is employment. But we have people come to we have a Monday morning meeting that lasts a long time, every Monday. And there's always great speakers that come in. They want to come and talk to us about whatever it is that they provide. Anybody from Catholic Charities to the CRPs, Community Service League. I'm trying to think of some that have been here, been to the meeting recently, or that I work with more. I'm the TBI, or now acquired brain injury, VRC. So those are my clients that get assigned to me. And I am the one who you would work with out of the Kansas City East Raytown office. And I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought on what I was saying about that. But depending on what you're needing, resource wise, just ask your VRC, voc rehab counselor, because you just never know what kind of resource that we may hear about or know. And so all that stuff affects employment. Let's see. Okay, so we talked a little bit earlier. I know I've kind of skipped around here. Job placement assistance. And so when we get to the point where we've met, we get your case open, then we determine eligibility, and then we do vocational planning. At that meeting, and sometimes we can combine meetings, again, we think outside the box. Whatever is best for the client, whatever is most helpful to them is what I want to do as a counselor, that they'll allow me to do, of course. And we're encouraged, and thank goodness we're allowed to think outside the box and do it our way many times. But that's when vocational planning, we're going to talk about, okay, here's a list of the providers, and you look it over. It's client choice. Whatever place that you would like to work with, that's who you choose. You can take the list and make some phone calls and just ask to speak with the employment program and find out. Clients will ask me, what should I ask them? Well, ask them how their success rate is, and see what they say about that. And clients have done that, or just anything that comes to mind that you want to know. And then I'm the one that actually, whenever you're done and you've chosen the provider, then I'm the one that's going to coordinate and set up the meeting between the three of us. That's when I always call that like phase 2 of vocational planning, because again, that's their area of expertise. All they do all day long is work with getting people employed, job searching, meeting with their networking and job development. That's another thing that we're able to do, or the CRP is able to do, is, sometimes clients, they need a very specific, narrow type of job due to their disability. And maybe it's not something that is just readily out there. CRPs, and I myself can do it as well. It's the CRPs usually the one who does it, but I'll help anytime anybody wants me to. You approach an employer and see, hey, what do you feel about job development? And I got a person in mind that might be able to do a job here, and it kind of goes from there. So, the goal is always help the client do and be what they want to do and be. And we do everything we can to make that happen. And we're usually pretty successful. So vocational planning, that's, another part where, like I say, I get it started with the client, and then they come in and listen to, I do a way we do our meetings and give information with the client being there. And then, the employment specialist, it's clicking already, and they're thinking of jobs, and they're like, oh, well, have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? Or sometimes it's, let me think about this, or let me talk to this person. And then sometimes, the more narrow it is, sometimes, it's going to take longer to find that job. But don't get discouraged. Don't give up. It just take some time, and we're in it for the long haul, for as long as we need to be. So once, just to kind of give a really quick explanation, once the client, I know family members and are here listening as well, or participating. When the client, you start to work with a CRP, and usually you meet with them weekly. Once you find a job and you begin working, things are going well. The CRP is there the whole time, but 90 days is considered successful employment. And at the end of those 90 days, we have a conversation about, okay, do you like the job? Is it a good fit? Are you happy? Do you want to stay there? And only when you can answer yes to all those questions, then we close you out successfully. So you can always, I always encourage people, clients that if any time, let's say 3 years from now, you have a manager change and things aren't going well, call Voc Rehab, call immediately. Sometimes the clients will call the CRP, and sometimes they're able to help. Technically, they can say, hey, call Voc Rehab first, and then they can refer you over to us. Some of them just help then, but they don't have to. But definitely reach out to your Voc Rehab counselor in office. And, even if your Voc Rehab counselor has left, somebody else will help you. That's not a problem. And sometimes people, they forget that. But like I said, 3 years, 5 years, doesn't matter. You lifetime, if you need services from us and you're eligible, and you've already gotten services and you're obviously eligible, you're having any problems, or let's say for whatever reason, life happens and you had to give up that job and, okay, I'm ready to look for another job. Call Voc Rehab, ask for an intake. You will always be able to come back to Voc Rehab. As long as you have the documented disability, SSDI, SSI, you meet that criteria of being able, you need help either, finding a job with assistance, or maintaining, keeping a job. That's what we're there for. That's what we exist for. Next slide. So I know I'm running out of time. Let's see, navigating the workforce, secure work accommodations. And, this is, I took this straight from the, American ADA. And I underlined some important things. Most importantly, you have a right to request a reasonable accommodation for the hiring process on the job. When, a lot of times people want to know when is the right time to ask for an accommodation. And some people think it has to be done at a certain time. I go down to the next slide and I say on here, I don't say it, the ADA says it, and I underlined it. You may request a reasonable accommodation at any time during the application process or any time before or after you've started working. You can work there 5 years and then all of a sudden you feel like, okay, I need an accommodation. Then you can go to HR, let them know you're needing an accommodation. And the CRPs, and again, that's more their expertise on when and how to approach that. Like I was saying earlier, sometimes it's visible. There is going to be a need for accommodation. Sometimes it's not visible, so there is no time that you're required to ask for accommodations. What I would suggest, and I think all CRP employment specialists that I work with, until you get the job, have a formal offer that's on the table that you plan to accept. From then on, depending on what the accommodation is that you need, that's when I recommend you ask. They cannot rescind that job offer. That is illegal. And I've never worked with any employer that's ever asked to try to do that. I'm sure they're out there, but I think hopefully in the year 2021, that employers are, seeing the immense opportunities that a person with a disability brings to the employment workforce. There's tons of pros and positives. So again, that's another thing where you may have successfully closed with us, but you can always call us and say, hey, I'm needing to talk to them about an accommodation, and we'll do whatever we can. I mean, we'll help in any way we can. But I just put just a few things from ADA, and I think, you know, secure work accommodations was one of the questions that Maureen wanted me to answer. And so hopefully that helps you. And we can talk, you know, if there's details that I'm able to help you with, any questions. And I'm running out of time, but I'm completely fine with giving you my information. My office is at the end of all of the PowerPoint, the slides, and then you can call that number and ask for me if you need me. Then finally is we're having a career while utilizing Social Security disability. Super important that you know that you can get SSI, SSDI, and work. And that is not VR's area of expertise. My boss, Nancy Milgram, used to be the brain injury counselor for many years. And it's certainly still very dear to her heart. And we were talking about this, and I said, I'm just going to provide you, Missouri, the client in this, and family, Missouri Protection and Advocacy Services. They do a wonderful job. I wasn't sure, and then I started asking clients, because I give this to every one of them, and I ask them to call and make what it's been a pandemic. I don't think it's changed this one too much. They will do an appointment with you over the phone. They'll schedule an appointment, and they do a very intense paperwork workup of down to the penny, how much you can make without your benefits being affected. That's one thing that with my clients, I'm very protective of. If that's, you know, this is a deal breaker. They cannot lose that. And I can imagine, and I have worked with clients that had lost it and then came to VR. So it's something they've gone through a lot to get it back. So that's really important to me. It's important to all of us at Voc Rehab. But there you have it. You've got the information. You could use this today and call them. Hey, I was at a seminar and I was given your information from Voc Rehab. You can tell them who I am. They're in Jeff City. They're awesome. They're advocates. So that's what they do. And the client's feedback has been excellent. Everyone who has used them that has told me they use them, or I've asked them and they said, yeah, said they did phenomenal, and actually felt like they were given, each was given a name and a phone number in Jeff City. They felt it was personalized, that they could go to that, call that person and ask any questions. I'm running over, I'm 2 minutes over. I'm so sorry. I thank you so much for having me, Maureen, and clients and families. And again, here at the end, the last slide, there's information just general to my office. If you want to set up an appointment, you can call that number and do that, or you can ask for me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Vicky, for such great information. It will be very helpful. I know that we had several questions in the Q&A section, and we didn't have time for them, so we will get you that information. And if you did not have your name as part of your question, please call the Brain Injury Association office, and we can put you in contact with your local vocational rehabilitation office or other resource, as Vicky mentioned, or you can call her directly. The
Absolutely.
office number for the Brain Injury Association is 1-800-444-6443. We are now going to take a few-minute break. During this break, stretch and